Free your mind.
Prisoner edition of the Pan-African Pyramid Show here at Fair Hotel. The speaker is Andrew Irumba Kapsa. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening we have two important activities. Number one is that we are launching the 7th Pan-African Pyramid Global Awards 2024. We are launching it now, and then after launching it, we will go into our usual debate. You need to know that we, every August of every year, we organize an award primarily aimed at appreciating, recognizing the four Pan-Africanists, or forefathers in Pan-Africanism, but also appreciate those that have taken on the mantle, and then also try to task ourselves to project the future ahead of us in the world of Pan-Africanism. So every August, expect a function here at Fair Hotel, ceremony to recognize even those that died long time ago, those that are living, and the young people joining the Pan-Africanist movement to champion and keep the fire burning. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am here to unveil this year's the dinner cutouts. This time we are using Shaka Zulu. You have heard him being mentioned in one of our prayers from the Pan-African world. Shaka Zulu, we all know. If you don't know, please Google him. He has a very long history when it comes to Pan-Africa. And we are simply taking the mantle, moving forward, but he is one of the people that started a struggle for Pan-Africanism. So this time around, the ticket is here, the dinner cards are here. You can help and contribute and mobilize in terms of financial assistance towards the successful award this year. It will be 31st of August 2024. Now, the second one is I would like to welcome you once again to the Pan-African Parliament. This is the People's Pan-African Parliament that sits here every Friday from 5 to 8 p.m. at Fair Hotel. Entrance is absolutely free, and the recorded version runs on NBC television on Saturday from 4 to 5 p.m. Comrades, the Darfur genocide is the systemic killing of ethnic Darfurian people which has occurred during the war in Darfur and an ongoing war in Sudan. It has become known as the first genocide of the 21st century. The genocide, which is being carried out against the four Masaliti and Zagawa ethnic groups, has led the International Criminal Court (ICC) to indict several people for crimes against humanity, rape, forced transfer, and torture. An estimated 200,000 people were killed between 2003 and 2005. In 2023, ladies and gentlemen, ethnic violence against Masaliti people flared up again as a side effect of another war in Sudan, resulting in many of those affected fleeing to Chad and beginning another escalation of the genocide. As of December 2023, over 8 million people require humanitarian aid. The crisis and ongoing conflict in Sudan's western Darfur region have evolved from several separate events. The very first civil war that occurred between the Khartoum national government and two rebel groups in Darfur. The Justice and Equality Movement and the Sudan Liberation Movement, or AMEN, the rebel groups were initially formed in February 2003 due to Darfur's political and economic marginalization by Khartoum. In April 2003, when the rebel groups attacked the military airfield and kidnapped an Air Force general, the government launched a counterattack. It led to a response from the Khartoum government, where they armed militia forces to eliminate the rebellion. This resulted in mass violence against the citizens in Darfur. A second factor is a civil war that has occurred between the Christians, the animist black Southerners, and the Arab-dominated government since Sudanese independence from the United Kingdom in 1956. The violence that took place for about 11 years left more than 1 million people displaced by the hostilities, fleeing to other places around Sudan or across the border to Chad. The question, ladies and gentlemen, is that we want to discuss this evening: has the regional blocs, the East African Community, the SADC, and so on, the African Union, and the United Nations played their role? Why does the world look on the UN Security Council, the African Union, the regional blocs? We are not discussing other issues, but Darfur, people have been dying and they continue to die. It is Uganda that is trying to actually offer at least some kind of relief when they say the borders are open, please come and stay here. There are so many Sudanese who are in Uganda, most of them are even in university studying. They're studying. Something that they could not afford to get in their own bodies in the country. So, but how far should this go? Ladies and gentlemen, I have heard UK sanctioned some Ugandans here, political leaders here, just because they stole iron sheets. It's not good to steal, of course. Yeah, it's bad. They stole iron sheets. Okay, they stole iron sheets. The argument is that when you steal from the poor are dying, didn't it? That's the argument of UK. Okay. How many people died in Sudan, in Darfur? Where is UK? Where is UK? So why do you think that we should respect when you say the Speaker of Parliament has been sanctioned for allegedly? I'm saying allegedly because she was never sanctioned by DPP. So a whole country like UK is using social media to invade somebody in Africa because it is Africa. Why can't you do that in Arab countries? You can't do it in Arab countries, we see. So we want a fair world. We want a fair world. Let people focus on what matters first and most. So I believe that the people of Darfur and Sudan that are involved deserve justice. First, I am a journalist. When you go to investigate Mr. Kashai, you see these Darfurians killing themselves, but there is a European hand behind. There is somebody supplying arms. There is somebody giving them money. There is somebody instigating them. When we are going to invade them, this somebody is safe. Actually, he's the one even sanctioning this one. The Sudanese are not just killing themselves out of the blue. There is somebody from outside the country who is doing that, instigating people, paying them money, promising them this and that. When we go to sanction, they sit on the table of what's going to sit at the sanction. Yet yesterday, they were in the field, actually, fearing the war. This is the Africa that we must face and speak the truth. The people in Rwanda did not simply wake up one day and kill themselves. No. The people who instigated the killing, at the end of the day, they sat and said, you come here and we'll try you. The same is happening in Darfur, Sudan. The same is happening in Congo. The people who are sending ammunition, who is supplying these people ammunition, they are not being manufactured in Congo. Somebody is supplying them. After supplying them, they kill themselves. Then tomorrow come and say, I am a peacekeeper, I'm coming to keep peace. But you have destroyed the peace yesterday. So when it comes to trying them, no, we are flying them to Europe to try them. Europe, that is responsible for causing instability. He's the one saying, we are going to try you. Now, these are issues that we need to highlight.
First of all, I want to thank God and the President of the Republic of Uganda for having trusted me and given me an opportunity to serve this country as the Deputy RCC of Hoima City, the oldest city. So you So things have changed now.
Hey, so we are not going to lack fuel here.
Now,
this oil is there.
Mr. Chairman, when I'm discussing African affairs, many times I don't discuss it as a Ugandan. I develop a different picture, a different face, a different feeling of Africans. Mr. Speaker, the Africa you're talking about is like an animal film, which is very good to be watched by Europeans and Americans. Very good film. So you watch this animal film, you call it geographical what? Documentaries. A lion fighting a buffalo. Oh, this is very strong. Oh, let me see how it will end. Which animal is more powerful in killing? That's what Europeans are watching us when we are killing each other. They have never, even at a single time, recognized Africans as human beings. We are animals. And indeed, for some extent, Mr. Speaker, I have believed that perhaps we are animals. Yes, because the way we behave, I'm telling you, there is no difference between that animal you see in the park and us. What is the difference? Where is the difference? Now, the way you see yourself seated here, who can tell that this is a Sudanese, this is a Ugandan? Just look at yourselves. But somewhere in 2,000, 3,000 kilometers will come and say, you are a Sudanese, you are Ugandan. You can imagine the people who are fighting in Darfur, because you see, Darfur, it used to have a ruling class, a group called the Fon. This is the Asian tribe. Fon. Before now we have the Zangwa, the Tana, the Bango, the Dajo, the Masaiti. There are many tribes. All these tribes, these are Africans. So in I think around 1580 something, they converted into Islam, some of them. And that's why some other people in North Sudan, they were sponsoring some people saying, no, you are not Christians. So therefore you create now another conflict. Who is a Christian? Who is a Muslim? That's an issue. It's not issue of poverty. It's not issue of education. It's not even an issue of land. It's not even an issue of development. It's not even an issue of empowerment, but an issue of ethnicity. So where is the difference between those animals in the zoo and we Africans? If we can be cheap to reach the next stage of hating your fellow African, the one you have lived with for years, why can't you really have a very good documentary now in Darfur is going on, and some people here are going to buy it expensively to see how animals are killing each other. Very good to watch. Thank you very much for acting. The Darfur people are acting in a genocide. We enjoyed another acting in Rwanda. The Hutus and Tutsis, who were divided by Belgium and France. It was a very good film. It sold many copies in Europe. And those who documented those films are now rich. A young European man comes and said, hey, look what this one, this one has been killed even when he was naked. Very good to watch. Shame! You get a pang and kill your own brother. And you want to love an European who has been making you slave for years. Mr. Speaker, sometimes I feel like crying.
Don't cry, please. Don't cry. Let's debate.
Do you share the same sentiments with me? You guys.
We feel you.
Do you know you can get a South Sudanese here on the street and say, Chirabe, you come and step on him. When are you returning home? These South Sudanese used to kill us. Why are you still killing us in their capital? South Sudan. Juba. You Ugandans go back. Who brought you here? Who brought me here? In Kenya, there was a time when you could not pass those streets. You are arrested. You were Ugandan. Umekuja kufanya nini hapa? Kweli? Umekuja kufanya nini? Mimi dada yao. An European when he passes, no one can ask. Umekuja kufanya nini hapa? You asking an American that what have you come to do in Uganda? It can be taboo. Your fellow African is the one you are asking and questioning many questions. Even you can cause a case on him as a terrorist. Who bewitched you? We have been preaching and preaching every day. Unity, you people, we are the same. Even take photos. Now, Mr. Speaker, the cause of conflict and genocide in Africa is caused by post-colonial and greedy politicians who are being sponsored, given a lot of money deliberately to disorganize and divide Africans on tribal and ethnic lines. We have evidence, all documents. You remember what happened in Congo? Congo conflict is as a result of the Banyamulenge, how they are discriminating them for years. They are telling you people, you are Rwandese, go back. These guys have been there for centuries, and you are telling them to go back.
Where?
To go where? You know what has been happening in Ethiopia? Fighting is going on between that small group there, which is fighting. The conflict while in Somalia, we have a failed state. So because small ethnic groups, each group wants to be head of state. Each head of that ethnic group wants to be a president. Now, where are we going? Now, let me tell you, all those tribes you hear fighting, all of them, they are not individual initiated conflict.
Is the problem there tribal?
No. It's not tribal. Mr. Speaker, if for this case by mistake, the African Union appoints James Kashaya.
By mistake?
Yes, as the chairman of African Union Commission.
By mistake?
I can show you what to do. The first 100 days, I will create a standby force, an African force that deals with all those groupings.
You're calling them groupings?
Yes, because what are they doing?
You will need a vote from
Or,
the heads of states.
no, so long as they give me the mandate.
He has said
So long as they give me the mandate.
We have seen it.
You can imagine that we gave a lot of alarm about Libya. Libya, some of you don't know, before the killing of Gaddafi, its GDP was even better than of Spain. That's where they had reached. Now you go there. So in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I think this is the time as an activist, as Pan-Africans, to mobilize ourselves, mobilize those who are actually loving Africa, and we demonstrate against these nasty activities. I want to see the Pan-African pyramid going to Parliament, in the Pan-African Parliament. I want to see the Pan-African pyramid going to the embassy of these countries and say, please leave us in peace. The message will go. You have colonized us, you have killed us, you have made us slaves, you sold us like goats and dogs in open markets. That's enough. Please leave us. That message should come out. Who will kill you in your territory here? But people are shy. Good evening.
Free your mind now.
Mr. Speaker, you will permit me in carrying out a surgery about the Darfur question to look at it from the bigger picture, because I do believe that the Darfur question is a microcosm of the bigger picture and the bigger question called the Sudan question. But even before I diverge into the nucleus of the topic today, permit me equally point out about 2 or 3 issues that were raised by my colleague, the previous speaker, the assistant RCC of Hoima district. In looking at sanctions which were imposed, I think it was even raised by you, Mr. Speaker, in your preamble, by Britain, our former colonial master, I asked the question as to why we as the African countries, especially those of us that were directly colonized by Britain, why we have not thought so critically about sanctioning Britain for the participating in slave trade, 1, participating in colonialism, 2, also participating in neo-colonialism now. Because I want to believe that all the 3 constitute very serious crimes, much bigger than the iron sheets which they are talking about. That is if we are to believe that indeed the sanctions that they have imposed on some of the people in the Republic of Uganda and the bit of sanctions on the country itself are anything to do with the wrongs, quote unquote wrongs, that the country has done. I think for us as Pan-Africans, it is very incumbent upon us to look at some of these issues that could not clearly come out in the press, such that we can be a notch higher in diagonizing issues to do with the hypocrisy of the capitalistic West. It's also my take that the issue of segregation, tribalism, religionism, clanism is something that was not known on the African continent. If it were there, it was at a very limited scale, so much that Our seniors in the Pan-Africanism, like Professor Pio Lumumba, has argued and convincingly so that Africa had and still has a better mechanism of dealing with differences, much better than Europe and America. I do agree and even propose to you and to us that segregation is a direct consequence of colonial rule. When the white man came here, he endeavored, especially the English, to divide wherever he practiced colonialism, the people there on the basis of height, basis of color, basis of clan or tribe, for purposes of using the same divided people for his own gains. That's why in the majority of the countries where there was British colonialism, a certain tribe or group of tribes were in the army, in police, and others were not there. Even the Belgians and the French did the same thing, to the extent that the genocide we had in Rwanda was as a direct consequence of the colonial rule in that part of the country, spreading up to Burundi. Because hitherto, all the three tribes, the so-called Hutu, Tutsi, Batwa, lived harmoniously, but things fell apart when the white man told them that they were actually different. Mr. Speaker, sir, as we talk, about 25 million people need humanitarian support in the entire Sudan due to the crisis. Tribal, if you like, and you can give it any other dimension you want to give it, but the reasons as why we have got a crisis, which has been largely neglected by the powers that be, and I'm going to look at them later on, is a shame in our face. The Speaker, sir, about 8.5 of those who are in need of the humanitarian aid are actually children. Children numbering well over 8.5 in the entire Sudan. Bigger picture of the Darfur are in need of humanitarian support. About 15 million people have actually left the country, the neighboring countries. Egypt, some have moved down to an equally not so stable South Sudan. We have some here in Uganda, others have moved to Kenya. All these neighboring countries that actually surround Sudan, they have got a quarter of the refugees that come from Sudan because of the crisis. The economy, Mr. Speaker, sir, of Sudan has literally collapsed. The economy has literally collapsed. The inflation is hyper, and at the same time, some sectors that were giving a lifeline, like the oil sector or the little life that was left in the oil sector of Sudan has completely been halted, and there is no activity. Starvation and famine is the order of the day, and all that plight is in the face of African Union, is in the face of the United Nations, is in the face of East African community, and even the IGAD, whose function is to combat famine, hunger, starvation. At the same time, the Security Council have all, including the Arab League, if Sudan wants to count itself as a member of the Arab League. And I'm literally being very kind with words, because in describing how the blocs, like United Nations, the African Union, the East African Community, the Arab League, the Security Council, how they have handled the Sudan question, I would be mean not to say that they have done very little, if not nothing.
So in conclusion, UN and the regional blocs have not helped the Darfur people.
The UN has largely been a nuisance, world over, and it was not going to be of any use this time around to the question of Sudan. The East African community has made some attempts at reconciling the warring forces, but it is also unfortunate that the efforts the East African community has made, because I understand that the chair has invited the two parties, and the party which is the government, considered to be the government fighting forces, have time and again refused to participate when, especially the peace process, the rapid forces are invited along, because they do not consider them to be worthy to be talking to or talked to, for that matter. The other force, of course, of the African Union, they are infested with hypocrites, and they are a party to the upheavals that are besetting the people of Sudan, and that is what they like, because they know that as long as there is instability, as long as the war rages on, as long as there is confusion and no political clear leadership, then they will be able to participate in exploiting wantonly the resources of Sudan, like they have done in the past, to exploit the resources of the countries where they have exported instability, and a good example is Libya. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to conclude by saying that it is incumbent upon the African Union, it is incumbent upon the regional political blocs and other economic regional blocs to look at Sudan as their baby, one of its members, to ensure that the help is not going to come from any other organization, but it's going to come from them themselves, because they will be helping their own, short of which we are going to see Sudan as a failed state, which will be counted among others as the failures of the African Union, especially, and other regional blocs. I thank you.
Free your mind now. Be part of People's Pan-African Parliament, the Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
In 2017, as the war was raging on, there is a lady who actually played a part in ensuring that they come to table and try to negotiate for peace, but also organize her fellow women in ensuring that they keep calm and they keep the fire burning. She was also here when she reached here. She mobilized the Sudanese female or women into an association. And this lady, thereafter, she fell sick. She has spent most of her time bedridden. It is only a few months ago that she came back to life. I invited this lady to come and receive this award. It was awarded to her in 2017. This is 2024. Comrade Grace Andrua is the Executive Director of South Sudanese Cultural Development Agency in Uganda. She deserves this award. She has been doing a lot of work for the women of South Sudan and Uganda.
Free your mind now. Be part of People's Pan-African Parliament, the Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
Good evening, members. My name is Grace Andrew Atasio, and I want to thank you all for witnessing this. I received my award since 2017, but something happened and I fell sick. But by God's grace, I am here. So I just don't want to talk too much. I just want to give points on what the two speakers have just said. Because remember,
Which part of Sudan you come from?
South Sudan.
South Sudan.
But first we were Sudanese.
You are Sudan.
And now the way for me I've seen it, even there is no need for South Sudan and Sudanese. The way I've seen it, forgive me.
There is no difference between.
Yeah.
There is no need for Sudan and South
No
Sudan.
need, the way I've seen it. After my experience, I'm seeing no need for Sudan and South Sudan. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I am just seeing no need.
But remember, that was the agenda of the
Garan. My daddy.
Yes.
You see? So for me, as a person who is also trained, I'm a Catholic who is trained by always Caritas and sometimes volunteer with Caritas, I am seeing that we the Africans, we the people, we who are here, we need to do something. And just like he said, when he said, if I'm appointed the African something union, you remember? Our former speaker, our daddy.
Yes.
He will deploy what? He has just made me happy. Yeah.
Stand by force.
Yeah, because we need to take action. We cannot always cry and cry and cry. The people of Sudan, the people of Darfur, we need to help ourselves by ourselves because nobody will do it for us. And that is why this forum is very important. And that is why I promote culture. And the cultural institution that we people have left behind and abandoned, shame on us. Because culture goes with religion. There is no culture which really tells somebody kill. I don't think. If there is one, tell me. I've never seen. The cultural leaders must now wake up and must be involved to spearhead this kind of thing because they are the solution to us, not the politicians. I don't hate politicians. I love politics and I will be a good politician. But I don't want us to leave the really people behind, the cultural leaders. And we need these cultural leaders. We need them. We need to sit in a room. We identify our challenges. And when we build the solutions by ourselves and we implement it by ourselves, because we need to save South Sudan and Sudan. We need to save Sudan.
In a nutshell, Madam Gusandroa,
yeah.
You are saying that the conflict in South Sudan and Sudan, before even South Sudan seceded from the main Sudan, the conflict, one of the reasons is that they neglected the cultural leader and the cultural institution.
Yeah, people
so
are lost.
On board would help in trying to find a solution.
Yes, they can lead it and they can talk. They are the people who can talk to somebody who is even angry and even have a gun and even want to shoot. But cultural institutions, cultural leaders can manage to bring people to order, not by force.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Free your mind now. Be part of People's Pan-African Parliament, the Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
Good evening, audience. Thanks for giving me this chance. Before I answer your question, let me just be back to our Pan-Africanism. Today is the historical day for me to stand in front of you here within this stage to introduce myself. Who is me, or who are we, or who are Africans? We are one, as you have been saying that our skin is one. We are one color. We are one land, one continent, one issue. In Africa, we have many issues. Before I came to Darfur, let me just do, as a discussion that over here. It is great topic. What I'm going to say is that, dear brothers and sisters, dear fathers and mothers, dear Pan-Africanists, we have a lot of issues. First, we have language issues. For example, right now, I'm standing in front of you. I have my own language. It's a foreign language. Historically, we are speaking our official language. I have a lot of information to say to you. In Sudan, our official language is Arabic language. Those who are Sudanese around here, they speak Arabic language fluently. They have a lot of information to say, to write, to do, to tell the world that what is going on in Sudan, what is going on in Darfur. But the problem is language. Let us write this down. What faces us, our problem is language. We didn't write our hundreds or thousands of language here in Africa. We didn't write. This is our problem. Pan-Africanism, I do appreciate the founders before 100 years, before those of Patrick Lumumba, Julius Nyerere, whatsoever. I found them and I read to them. It's not the place, it's not expected for me to talk about them, but the later we will get to another platform, to another discussions. Pan-Africanism is our home. Pan-Africa, it is our mother, it is our grandmother, it is our grandfather. I do appreciate you for listening to me right now. I do appreciate for those who are not around here. I hope our message from here to reach to those who are not around or international, organizations, those who are going to solve African problems. At the time that we fail to solve our own issues, at the time that we have failed to solve our language issues, our economic issues, our cultural issues, our historical issues, at the time that we are not authenticating our life, even our social issues.
Comrade Tigo, in conclusion, because we must conclude, what would be the main challenges in Darfur? Are the regional blocs playing a role in solving the problem? Is UN playing a role in solving the problem? Are there some socio-cultural challenges that you think should be addressed? If you could wait up to that.
Appreciate. Thank you. In Sudan, we have 2 wars. Since 2003 has written here,
because we are looking for solutions.
I'm coming.
That's my primary objective. What are the problems and what can we do?
Excellent. I'm coming to. First, I'm going to define definition of what is going on over there. I hope just to have more time, but unfortunately, we have 2 wars: Darfur War and Sudan War.
Okay.
We have a Sudan War. We have a war that has taken place. We let all Sudanese to be or to become refugees from Egypt, as our brother mentioned here. We have a lot of refugees here in Uganda suffering too much from camp over there. We are from Ethiopia, Egypt, Libya, whatsoever. The solution is we must sit together.
Okay.
As a Sudanese, we should have to sit together. Okay. We are not going to interface or bring someone from outside to solve our problems.
Thank you, Comrade. Thank you.
We as a Sudanese must sit together, and I do appreciate you for pursuing this chance or bringing this chance. I do appreciate Ugandan old. I do appreciate for those who welcome Sudanese here. I do appreciate Ugandan government. Thank you so much for listening.
I've been contemplating about the question you presented. First and foremost, I think UN has actually done what is expected of it. What do you expect of it? Nothing. And it's not to expect of it.
We expected nothing, and they have done exactly that.
They have done exactly that. Because
so they have achieved.
When we look at history has always judged us right. When the League of Nations lost its team, it did exactly what we expected of it. What? Nothing. So UN has indeed done a lot of what we expected of it. Two, I think Africa is missing a step here. Darfur is not a Darfur problem, neither is it a Sudan problem, neither is it an East African problem. I think it is actually an African problem by general. Why? Because Darfur is just the nucleus of what is happening in the rest of Africa, despite the fact that the rest may be happening at a mild pace. So Africa as a whole is within the same tatamiz, the same brackets as Darfur is. The difference is the rest of Africa is not per se outspoken. It is more or less the same that is happening in Cameroon. We still have peace within some places of Africa, yet we have no food, yet we have no electricity. And the Congo, one of the richest countries on this planet, very broke. And who is interested in it? Is Africa interested in it? That's a question for another day. The problem to be solved, if I may go the solution, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Kwame Nkrumah, the late one of the African fathers we celebrate, lamented in one of his speeches. He said, if we leave the Africa whole by then, without a single African state, a single African capital, and a standing army for Africa, we are dancing the same things. He said, the straps of power will get into the leaders that are then, by then, we are the leaders of Africa, and we shall have the new enemy coming in, just reclothed. Sooner than later, neocolonialism came in. And now, Africa is failing to define who is actually the enemy. The Tutsi and the other tribe, I am not your enemy. Sudanese, I am not your enemy. South Africa, we were chasing us out of South Africa. We the Blacks are not the enemy. We've existed with our conflicts, internal ones. We've always handled them. But we are failing to understand who actually the enemy is. If I may, Mali, it was at relative peace until Wegina came in. When you look at the rest of Africa, Cameroon, look at wherever these so-called the trainers of the military forces in Africa we have. Look at wherever they are. And look at the interests they have within those particular places. Sudan have bad news. You will not have peace. Because you have money. You will not have peace. You will not know it. So, Congo, I have good news. You will never know peace. Because you have minerals. Uganda, I have better news. Unless you speak the Ugandan language, you solve the Ugandan problems by Ugandan solutions. We don't have peace. So where is the problem? The likes of these platforms, sir, thank you for beginning the platform. The likes of these platforms are meant to inform us, educate us, and sensitize us on what is supposed to be. Problem is, how many of the younger generation is even interested? 90% is TikTok. Yet even the founders in China, it is banned. And in Africa, we are very happy to be on TikTok. You see a mature man dancing like an idiot on TikTok, and we count it to be okay. And when we speak the African problems, so such platforms is when we have to be sensitized about, one, who the actual enemy is. Two, how can we deal with the problems we have as Africans? And three, how can Africans actually be Africans without dancing to UK? We have now sanctions and the likes. Really, an independent state is now pleading now. The speaker is being the sanctions. So, like really, Uganda has. And that is the Africa we are looking at. So in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, the Darfur silent genocide, have the regional blocs, the UN and the UN, done what they played the expected roles. UN, 100%. African Union, until the African Union is actually African, and the Union for Africans, we are just lamenting over what? Nothing. Thank you. I beg to submit.
Free your mind now.
Let's go back to history. critically think about what is Africa.
What was, what is now.
What is Africa? And let us begin to speak. We are lamenting a lot, not speaking, and then you're speaking people's narratives. Take in charge of the media. Thank you, media. Take charge of education. They say right education, but which education ought to be taught in Africa? There are many people before me who have spoken about this. Because when you become a critical thinker African, you will understand what my general Field Marshal Patrick Lumumba said. After people came and spoke long, he said, no, in Africa, we don't need long speeches, just need freedom. The message was so serious, they had to eliminate him. Another great Field Marshal of African liberty said, they control the money, financial system. So combine Kwame Nkrumah's agenda, Africa must unite. That is the hardcore solution that we ought to take. Africa must unite. When we unite, then we shall understand what our interest is. My brother from the other side has said it all. If you remove the need to define yourself as a visa passport, that's why I like this new idea that Africa must open the market. Those who in the government, if you're in the government here, or you have a special eye to people in the government, fast track integration. This is how we begin. East Africa, help them. ECOWAS, that is it. SADC, that's why I like Congo, DRC, and Tanzania. They will be an intersection of East Africa and SADC. Are we together? We have another formula going on. The missing thing is unite now. We have allowed disturbances. We are the thinkers. And what they have done, again, who? The Western world, distract. They hate the fact that you can speak for 7 hours logically when you're speaking African. Because the story is here. But they tell the girls, no, you didn't pass. They are marking us using their curriculum to keep you feeling your body. What speaking say? Am I speaking say, by the way? Am I speaking say? The last one as I got is marriage. Intermarriage. A classical solution for African unity. Because don't say unite, then don't get formula. Unite, marry. 2, if you must have a passport, must be 1 passport. Not many foreign affairs ministers, only 1. Africa must unite now. And the young people, don't wait for the old people. And do not waste your heart hating any adult. Get your age right now, don't tell me. Add 50 years and answer the question as I go to see. What Africa would you want to see 50 years from now? So don't blame my Kabuta, blame, I don't know, everybody. You are wasting time. 8 is what they're planting in you. So that you don't concentrate in the thinking. Check the chromogram. That Ataka Uganda. You guys, how much is your budget for shoes? But you tell me that in the Kenyan parliament, the Ugandan parliament, Karamagong MP should not come with the Lugabure. I wonder what you say.
Yeah.
Because it's Lord's policy. I know his policy. So was 1884 policy to divide Africa. Thank you so much.
Colleagues and the speaker listening to me, as long as the world powers, the America and Britain, still define for us what the war is, what a crisis is, what a genocide is, what a war of liberation is, Africa will not get peace. Because it is them who define for us that this is a war, this is a crisis going on, this is a war of liberation, depending on their interests which they have in Africa. So that's why even the genocide in Sudan, it is not all that vibrant, it is not known internationally. It is the few Pan-Africans who are trying to recognize it. Is this becoming a genocide?
as even the topic of the discussion has said, a silent genocide. So you cannot find it in international newspapers. You will not find it on international media. Like CNN, you will not find it on Al Jazeera, you will not find it on BBC. What we are talking in Africa is simply minor issues. They cannot talk about this, but they will go and talk about the war which is going on in Israel. They will go talk, in Gaza. They will talk about what is in Ukraine, because Africa, they don't take care of it. Nobody takes care of our interests. So, therefore, what I say about the regional blocs and this and the UN, I think UN has not played anything towards the end of wars in Africa. Two, I would say that UN should form a standby force, as one of our presenters had said, to always sweep out all uprisings across the continent. If this standby force come into existence, such crises they will not be in Africa. Then three, Africa should redefine itself in the world affairs, the role it plays in the political world and the regional, on the international affairs. When Africa defines itself that this is where we belong, they will stop over depending on the foreign aid. They will stop thinking that anytime UN is going to come and help us, because they have defined themselves.
Free your mind now. Be part of People's Pan-African Parliament, the Pan-African Pyramid Debate, with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
For someone to understand and to answer that question clearly, one must understand the roles that these two parties are supposed to play as regards ending that conflict. First is protection of civilians. We have seen, like particularly in the war in Sudan between the RSF led by Muhammad Dagalo and General Al-Burhan, we must ask ourselves, has the United Nations failed to protect civilians? And of course, when answering that question, you come to a conclusion that the United Nations has not played any role towards helping civilians in Sudan. As I conclude, my comment there talked about it. I think it was the first speaker, Mr. Kashara, who said that if you were appointed chairman of the African Union Commission, the first thing you would do is put in place a force to help and ask those people, those factions that are fighting in Sudan, and ask them to stop what they are doing. And if they don't stop, he uses force and coerces them to make them stop. Thank you so much.
My brother talked about Congo not having peace, mainly because it has got minerals, and in a way he's right. But I would want also to submit as follows, that where there is a will, there is a way. And empires rise and empires fall. Whoever is making Congo not to have so peaceful nights will also go away one time, because the empire that America is now is on the decline. And the hypocrisy of the hegemonic capitalistic West will also come to an end. We have witnessed so many forces that have stood in the face of the hypocrites, and they have succeeded. A testimony is Cuba, which for the last 60 years has stood in the face of the hegemonic USA, and they are moving on. The patient to doctor ratio is high, is very commendable, and it's not compared to any of these other countries. Their life expectancy is well over 82 years. I don't think even the Americans reach that age. And the quality of education that you can pick from a country which is under not sanctions, but economic embargo, total economic embargo from the empire called America, is also very good. So we get confidence and hope that really what is besetting the unfortunate unfoldings within the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is the heartbeat of Africa, will one time go away. I would want to believe that even with the minerals, which probably even less than 30% has been tapped into by the thieves, DRC and Africa will at one time be at peace, and it will be the superpower that it is supposed to be. Mr. Speaker, very quickly also,
Finally,
there's some brother, just two issues here, who talked about silencing the guns, that for him, if the African leaders must sit down and say we are silencing the guns, then there will be no wars on the African continent. I will tell you, it should either it is Lagos declaration or Maracay declaration that by 2021, it was the year for silencing the guns. But I can assure you, since the declaration was made, the guns on the African continent are even much louder than they were. Usually, and we can go country by country. Then you have been talking, somebody, my colleague was talking about Cameroon. You look at the issue of the Amazonia down there, where the English-speaking Cameroonians are at war with the French-speaking Cameroonians as if they are not in the same country. You can imagine an entire country is killing its citizens down there simply because the one speaks French, another speaks English. You move, you look at the Sahel region and look at what is happening. Are the guns any silent even when the African heads of states declared so in Marabo? My answer is no. But of course, all hope is not lost. It is that, you have to look at even the so-called progressive countries now, be it Europe, be it America, what they have gone through. We are also undergoing a certain phase. Let's not look at our continent as a condemned continent that we cannot get anything right. No. But if people must die during our time in order people to continue living peacefully during past our time, so be it. And finally, Mr. Speaker, these other issues which we think that are not in the ambit of the African Union are all there. I encourage that each of us gets a copy of the Vision 2063, the African Union Vision 2063. All these proposals, beautiful proposals which we have here, are contained in there. The only thing now is to see how to actualize them. And the responsibility is upon me, it is also upon you. I thank you so much.
Free your
question. These are my concluding remarks. These are human beings, and they should be treated as so. If there is a disagreement between two tribes, or they could be 3 or 4, there is no justification for the world to watch over. I believe that the regional blocs and the UN Security Council have got a role. If you come and say, I've got a role to play in the world, and people have accepted and given you the mandate, you should go ahead and play that role. The African Union, the United Nations, the regional blocs. We have EAC now, East African Community. All of us must find solutions to an African problem. One of the reasons why Europe continues to colonize us indirectly now is because for every problem, we run to them for solutions. Every problem. So, most of these issues that are solvable on the African continent, problem is that I think we are lazy to take the most serious steps. Every country has got army in Africa. What stops us from contributing to a regional army and solve a common problem? If we believe that we can solve a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being this part of this day. My name is Andrew Irumba Katushabe. On the 26th of August 2024 will be our 7th Pan-African Pyramid Group Award, and we shall be celebrating our 10th anniversary as Pan-African Pyramid. I urge all of you to come and support us and ensure that we have a successful event. If you are a Sudanese or South Sudanese and you believe there is somebody there who has been contributing to the well-being of our people there in terms of passing the message of hope and peace and Pan-Africanism, you can reach to our desk, research desk. We will get those details, put them together, and see how we advance the appreciation. We can always award our people if we believe that they are impactful in our society. Mostly, now there are those wars in Darfur. We want to see who are those who are actually adding value in terms of looking for solutions. My name is Andrew Irumba Katusare. Thank you, Asante.